Welcome to the session on employee engagement and sustainability. My name is Pete Dignan, and I have the relatively easy and very nice opportunity this morning to be the moderator for this session and introduce your two actual content providers here, your speakers. Employee engagement and sustainability is an important topic. We've realized, well, first of all, let me say who I am and why I'm doing this. I'm the executive director of CORE, which is based in Denver. It stands for Connected Organizations for a Responsible Economy. And we're a business association for companies that are pursuing sustainability, very much as businesses in ClimateWise here in Fort Collins are doing. And so I was invited to make these introductions this morning. We've discovered at CORE that employee engagement is the absolute #1 success factor in business sustainability programs. Executives, business leaders can set all the goals they want. They can do all the baseline assessments that they want and make plans and make goals, but until employees really understand what's in it for them, until they understand what is expected of them or what their role is in helping a business achieve their sustainability goals, the program doesn't really go anywhere. So this should be an interesting session this morning, and we're going to have two slightly different but related perspectives on that. Our first speaker this morning, Josie Plout. Josie is the Director of Projects at the Institute for the Built Environment at CSU. She's a lead accredited professional since 2004, and she works with companies to develop capacity and action plans for organizational change towards sustainability. Josie's known for her ability to inspire and motivate people through articulating a practical vision for creating a healthy, prosperous, and responsible world. So I'll turn it over to Josie.
Thank you, Pete. Well, I hope to live up to my reputation of providing a little inspiration and insight into this topic of employee engagement and sustainability. And so without further ado, I'll just kind of get started. Our institute is located at Colorado State University in the College of Applied Human Sciences. We've been around since 1994 with a focus on sustainability of built environments. This translates into the employee side of things because people occupy the places that we create. And so there's the design and construction component, but then there's also the long-term operations and maintenance of your facilities. And then that very quickly gets into the human dimensions. And so we provide certificate programs in green building. We do research for industry around green building practices, and then we also do a lot of applied project work. So we engage graduate students from across building related programs at CSU in real world projects here in northern Colorado and beyond to teach them skills that they need to go out into the workforce and get jobs being green building consultants and sustainability managers for construction companies. And the like. So that's a little bit about what we do if you're not familiar with our institute. And the first thing I wanted to start with was just a quick question. All of you are here presumably because you have some interest in engaging the employees and your coworkers. So I wanted to get just a couple of quick ideas from the audience about what you're already doing to engage people in your sustainability initiatives or in your corporate initiatives. So anyone willing to offer up? Yes? Contests. So contests so kind of a theme-based contest to see who can be the most engaged in riding their bicycle or alternative transportation or recycling efforts or those sorts of things. So that's a great way to start getting people motivated and engage the competitive human spirit a little bit. What else are you guys doing? Okay, an internal sustainability website with resources and news and postings and that sort of thing. So communication aspect, great. What else? Excellent. So incentives for volunteerism, getting people engaged in the community. So those are some good ideas about how you can start to get people in your organization circling around the same ideas and initiatives. The idea that I'm going to talk about today is a sustainability management system. The short for that is an SMS. And a sustainability management system is really a comprehensive system that guides the development, implementation, measurement, and reporting of your sustainability initiatives. So it's kind of getting your act together and stating, why do we care about this? What do we want to become? What is it exactly that we're doing? How do you report that and communicate that to your internal and external stakeholders? So in other words, an SMS is a great way to get people engaged, because if you start putting all of this energy into what you're doing, why you're doing it, you have to ask people their opinion and perspective on it. And then if you need to start doing things, it's a way to start bringing them around this central thing. And the reporting aspect is a really critical element as far as getting people to have to show what they've done. So it kind of puts some accountability behind your sustainability initiatives in perhaps a new way. What I'm going to do is show you a little bit more of a construct and then give you a case study of a company that we worked with here in town to help them develop their sustainability management system. But a sustainability management system covers all of these different areas. So it covers everything from your vision, which should be ideal and inspiring. So what is your vision for sustainability? And is that something that can be repeated on the lips of your coworkers and your employees? Understanding your principles, which would be what are the values that we hold on to? What are your strategies? How much time and money are you willing to invest in your sustainability initiative? What are your goals? So what are the specific areas that you hope to address? Then looking at your targets. So those are specific measurable things. So if your goal is to address carbon, let's say, then what is your target? You're going to have a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2015. That would be a specific measurable target. Then looking at your tactics, that's how do we do it? So we're going to do that through a lighting retrofit, we're going to do that through reducing our paper use. Those are specific tactics to help you achieve your targeted goal. And then finally you have logistics, which is about who's responsible for making that happen? Who's going to help cut down your paper use? Who's going to lead the lighting retrofit? Who's going to manage that website content? Who's running the contests? So those are your logistics and accountability systems. All of that together is your SMS. So you need each of those pieces in order to complete an SMS. So the case study I'm going to give is related to RB+B Architects. They are a mid-size architecture firm here in town. They have around 20 employees. So I wanted to use them as an example because it's probably an accessible size to a lot of you. I'm guessing that most of you work for smaller businesses and organizations, although SMSs are often found in large corporations. So most of your Fortune 500 companies today have a sustainability management system in place with a sustainability director who is really taking care of this whole system. I wanted to give the example of RB+B because they're a small organization that most of us can relate to, but these ideas can translate across multiple sizes of organizations. So what we did, the first was discovery, then vision, principles, and strategies. Then we focused on the logistics of it. And then finally the reporting phase, which they haven't gotten into yet. So in discovery, they had already established a green team within their organization. This is a great first step. If you don't have a green team, it's a good place to start. And then what we did is we came in and did interviews of all of their core leadership, as well as surveys for every employee in the organization to kind of gauge their overall receptiveness to sustainability. We needed to kind of take the temperature. And it was really helpful internally as well to have these things articulated, because it's amazing how often we go through and we assume that we know and understand our employees, our coworkers, and our leadership. And so this was a really good way to actually expose and articulate some things that were maybe assumptions or maybe were less understood. So there was benefit to them as an organization to go through this process of surveying everyone, as well as for us to better understand the organization we were working with. Then we went through and kind of did an inventory. Let's just assess and document and make sure we understand everything that we're doing right now already related to sustainability. Then we worked on refining their vision and principles and strategies. So the Green Team worked together to create a vision statement. We provided guidance to make sure that it was actually a vision statement and not a mission statement or a value statement, but it's really about their inspiring vision. And then we went through a process of looking at which principles or which value system do we want to espouse. At the end of the day, we chose One Planet Living, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, and Architecture 2030, which is a program specifically for the built environment, and it has to do with basically reducing carbon in the built environment by 100% by 2030. And so that's a pretty onerous goal as far as carbon is concerned, through efficiency and also through renewables. So that's Architecture 2030. We also looked a little bit at the natural step, and I think there were one or two others that we considered, but these were the ones that we came to for this one. And then as far as the Green Team is concerned, RP+B took an approach where they wanted to find a balanced way to measure people's time. They're a consulting firm, so they work on billable hours. And for every hour that you're taking someone away from a project that's billable, that can be perceived as lost revenue or income for the company. And so what they decided is that they wanted the Green Team, they were going to give them some resources to work on this during their company time, but that they also wanted people to work on this a little bit on their own time. So a lot of times the Green Team will meet over lunch, and they'll meet for an hour and a half. And so half an hour is paid for by the company, and the other hour is done on their lunch break. But when you think about it, a lot of us don't take our lunch breaks anyway, which is a sad state of affairs. But nonetheless, it was a way for them to kind of balance out their allocation of time and resources, and that was just their particular solution. And then we also looked at which divisions within their company they wanted to prioritize doing action on. So they have a lot of different activities. Their internal operations and their corporate stuff, the product that they create, and the process by which they create their products. So they had several different areas that they could focus on, and we looked at each of those. One Planet Living, I think, is a really great place to start if you want to create a sustainability plan or a sustainability management system, because it's kind of a toolbox or a kit. They have a lot of resources that are free and available to everyone. They help to kind of outline what are the important areas that you might focus on. It's not reviewed, so you don't send this off to anyone and get feedback on how well you're doing. It's just a starting place for you as an organization. So I think it's a nice toolkit. One of the things that the RB+B Green Team found was that they're really surprised to see culture and heritage and equity and fair trade and health and happiness included in the One Planet guidelines around sustainability. So for those of you who are in the last session, they were talking about corporate social responsibility. And sustainability in the triple bottom line, which would be economy, equity, and ecology, that includes all of these things. So when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about social sustainability as well as environmental sustainability, as well as the financial bottom line. So it really is an integrated bottom line approach. And so they were both surprised and delighted to see the issues having to do with culture and community and health and well-being were considered part of their purview as the Green Team. So we held a sustainability workshop. It was an all-hands meeting where we kind of did a mini retreat, and we looked at a cost benefit, maybe a midterm cost, or a high cost. And so they started picking off kind of the easy wins. And then they started their tracking and doing. So they used Access to track all of these different ideas and assign responsible parties, and it actually worked out as a really good tracking mechanism for them. And then the last thing that they haven't done yet, but that their Access-based tracking program is really going to help them do, is to do their annual reporting. And so at the end of each year, they'll go back and say, this is what our goal was, this is what we did to do that, and this is how we measured up to our goal. And this provides a lot of accountability. So you can see an SMS gives you a lot of structure. It helps to organize and get people focused on a common direction and effort. And also, it really helps to prompt continual improvement and give you better data for decision making. So that kind of goes back to this old business adage about what gets measured gets managed. So creating an SMS is a great way to drive people's attention towards your sustainability initiatives. And once you start measuring it, it's something that people circle around more and more. And really, this whole process is about getting people engaged, getting them to be part of this. So it's not just the Green Team's responsibility to fulfill the tasks that they set out, but they actually help distribute those tasks out to others within the organization. So when they were looking at entryway mats, they went to the interior designer who isn't on the Green Team and said, hey, can you do some research on green entryway mats? That's a way to get them engaged in the sustainability initiative and to send a continually reinforcing message. So in order to make it happen, I think the first thing to do is always to find some friends, find people who are also interested in sustainability within your organization so that you have some support and some other people to work with. You want to get buy-in, and so eventually you need to make the case to leadership if you aren't already the leadership. But you need to find that business case and that reason that it's an important thing for your organization. Are you missing out on business? Are you missing out on potential clients who are interested in your sustainability efforts by not having something strong to show them? So, those are the kinds of things to make your business case. And find your early wins. Find a program where you can start, doing a lighting retrofit and saving money on your utilities, or whatever that case may be. Find those early things that sound really good and have a good story. And then once you sort of build a little bit of a foundation, start to formalize your process and track your efforts and your success, and start doing that through a sustainability management system. And it's something that evolves over time. So the other thing is this doesn't have to be done all in the first 5 minutes of your sustainability initiative. It's something that evolves and develops over a period of time. So your goals for your first year may just to be establish some baselines, or to get your green team established and get your vision and do a couple of early win projects, and that's okay. And your first report may be 2 pages long, and that's okay. But the point is to start getting it organized, getting it tracked and managed and reported out, and then you can sell that both to your leadership if you need to, or your clients. So that's my part. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Cross, but I think Pete's going to take a moment to introduce her.
First of all, how about a nice hand for Josie? Who knew what you'd find out if you just asked? How many people here are interested in health and happiness? Your own, for instance? And if we said we're working on a program at work that may directly affect your health and happiness, do you think people would maybe get engaged? That's pretty cool. So our next and second speaker is Dr. Jenny Cross. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Sociology at CSU here in town. And her work has focused on basically using social theories and research methods to engage in community and local issues. In particular, her interest in conservation and sustainability has led her to look at factors that promote conservation behaviors. And she's going to be talking today about the role of social networks in the adoption of innovation and the use of social network analysis to develop community coalitions and cause changes in inter and intra-organizational communication. So, Dr. Jenny Cross.
So, in addition to being a professor at CSU, I also have a new company, Keros Consulting. When I put my little slides up, you'll see our new logo. I'm very excited that we have launched a company to help use the insights and methods of social science to help engage people and to help organizations operate more efficiently. So today I'm going to talk to you, as Pete said, about social networks, and I want you to think about the work of sustainability as happening through relationships with other people, and sometimes that's inside our organizations and sometimes that's between organizations, that we can expand our efforts and be more innovative because of our relationships with other people, and that's what social network analysis allows us to see and have some insight to. So a little bit of theoretical stuff here. I have presented a number of these climate-wise sessions and other things organized by the city, and when I think last year, Josie and I spoke about employee engagement, and some of the questions that people are always asking us are, how do we get more people involved? how do I get supervisors and leadership involved? We have a lot of interest at the grassroots in our organization, but we're not sure how to convince leadership. How do we make more systemic changes? Maybe we've been doing piecemeal things like contests, but we don't feel like we have really a comprehensive picture. And how do we be more innovative? We feel like we're doing a little stuff, but we think maybe there's more that we could do. So I was thinking about those questions that I've heard previously from the business community here in Fort Collins when I put together this talk. So I'm going to be sharing with you some data that we collected in our organizational study of the Poudre School District and how they became a leader in sustainability. But the insights from them are really not limited to what school districts might do or what public organizations might do. The insights from that are really related to social network theory, and they apply across all kinds of organizations, public and private, and they apply across organizations of all sizes, from really small LLCs to huge corporations. So what are social networks? Social networks are a way of thinking about how social and organizational life is organized, and we graph them with pictures that have dots or squares for people or for groups, and then we have lines between them that indicate people's relationships. So lines indicate that there is a relationship. Sometimes these relationships are information sharing. Sometimes they are resource sharing. Sometimes they're being on the same work team. So this is just a picture here of a social network with some different subgroups in it with different colors there. So that's what social networks are. Normally when we think about businesses, we don't map social networks in them. We actually map hierarchies, and we map who reports to who. Often the way work gets done in organizations also gets done through these hierarchies. And hierarchies are not typically the most effective strategy for getting stuff done, and they're definitely not the most effective strategy for making innovation. So if you look at the chart over here on the right of the network, this shows an organization, and it shows the ties and relationships between people in different sectors. When we start to think about businesses and groups and organizations as networks, we start to see different things and actually look for different things. So that's why we do social network analysis, is it allows us to see things that we wouldn't otherwise see. So why think about networks? Networks are one of the ways that adopting new behaviors can most effectively be done. Networks are the structure of a network. How people are connected to each other actually influences whether or not we are able to successfully create systematic change. If you've ever been part of a large organization and you can't figure out why a big change effort is not working, it's because the social network isn't organized in a way that facilitates that. Social networks are the way that innovation happens, and that is inside organizations, but also between organizations. And then networks are actually one of our most effective strategies and processes for sustaining change efforts. So these are the things I want to share with you today about how the structure of how we relate to each other influences our capacity to create new sustainability efforts, to be more innovative in them, and to sustain them over time. Okay, so one question you all have asked me in the past is, how do we involve more people? So here's a picture of a social network, and it highlights a couple important things. The little person in the middle with the green box around them is the formal leader. So if we think about that hierarchy, that's the person at the top of the hierarchy. The person in the little pink box is actually the person who's in the center of the social network. More people have relationships with, talk to this person, go to this person for resources, than to the formal leader. So when we're thinking about how do we involve more people, creating new teams like the Green Team is one of the really effective strategies for increasing sustainability efforts. However, when we do that, we want to make sure that we have the right people in that group, and knowing who the informal leaders are in our organization can be really effective. So important informal leaders on your green team might be a couple of different types of people. It might be one, somebody who's really passionate about sustainability. They have the power to inspire others, and so having them be on the team is really important because they serve that function of inspiration. But also, you want to have a variety of people on that team. So creating new teams is not just, you know, kind of a fun idea, but there's actually science behind it that suggests having new teams like green teams are a really effective strategy for engaging more people in the effort. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those teams should look like and what they should do. So here's a picture of the green team from the Poudre School District. This is the core group of people that were involved in designing green schools from the 2000 bond. So the school district designed and built 7 buildings, I think, from that 2000 bond. And I've highlighted for you here in different colors the organizational position of people. So all of the circles are people who are inside the school district. So red are administrators, superintendents or Board of Education members. Pink ones are people who are in a director position, so they're kind of at the top of the hierarchy. Green are people the next layer down in the hierarchy, they're coordinators. And the blue circles are people who are staff. So they're not teachers, they're staff working in facilities. And there are a couple yellow circles on here. One's really tiny, and the other big one next to it are teachers. So they're not even working in facilities, but they were part of the green team. So one thing I want you to see about this green team is that it has 5 hierarchical layers from the organization in it. And this map was drawn by social network analysis, and you'll notice it doesn't look like a hierarchy at all. It's a big circle with lots of connections across everyone. One of the fun things that we can do with social network analysis is look and see whether or not this network breaks down into smaller communities, if some people are more likely to talk to and interact with others. And you see here that these dots are all kind of connected with each other and crossing over. This network is super dense. It has lots of relationships between people, and it crosses over a whole variety of organizational functions. And it also includes these purple squares who I haven't identified the different sectors of industry that they come from, but they are from several different outside organizations that helped to guide the sustainability efforts in the school district. And they are just as integrated in this green team as people inside the organization. So sometimes when we do social network analysis, we can run these mathematical algorithms that will tell us how the network is structured. And I actually can't identify people's organizational position or whether or not they're a member inside or outside the district from the structure of this network. So people in the network all have kind of the same space, that they all are supporting each other, learning from each other, and contributing to innovation. Those are the questions that we asked them that helped to create this graph. I present this research to people who study social network analysis, and it's one of the biggest, most dense actual functioning networks that people who study organizational performance have ever seen. It's very common to have small, dense networks that have like 6, maybe 12 people, but it's very uncommon to have a network that is this diverse and this big. So this is one of the innovative things that the green team that came through the Poudre School District's green building process, they created a very large, very diverse team that is part of why they were able to really be innovative and be a trendsetter in the country for sustainability efforts. Okay, so next question. You all have asked me, how do I get leadership on board? And the simple answer to that question is that there are lots of things that you can do or you should try, but one of the things to think about is thinking about outside relationships. What are the interagency relationships that you can use to encourage leadership to think about sustainability as being important? So this graph here shows the internet industry partnerships, and they've been color-coded based on the different places that they play in industry. So I wanted you to see a huge network of big industry with big players. So IBM, Microsoft, and AOL are the ones that are labeled And you can see that IBM and Microsoft provide infrastructure and AOL provides content. You can see this is just a really big, huge network. So one of the best ways to move an organization that is kind of stuck or lagging behind is to build business relationships with other partners that are being more innovative around the issue of sustainability. So I want to talk to you about how in the school district network, interagency relationships pushed innovation. So here we have the colors coded slightly differently. Again, red is the school district administration, and you'll see more of them. And then the blue are the facilities folks. And so, but more important are the diamonds here. So the pink diamonds are people from construction and engineering, and the green diamonds are people from utilities. So when we talked to people in the school district and said, what did you do to engage in conservation and build all of these green buildings, they said to us, other agency partners are the ones who really pushed us. We had an idea and a vision that we wanted to be more green, but that vision got much bigger because of our partners. So they talked about how utilities set the bar higher. They said, hey, we are thinking we can save 10%. Utilities said, no, we think that you can save 40%. So Platte River Power Authority, Fort Collins Utilities, and other utility providers pushed the vision and made it bigger. The school district did the same thing with the architecture firm RB+B. RB+B was interested in green buildings. They were thinking about doing it, but they hadn't really developed a portfolio of that yet. So the school district pushed them and said, we want to make the most sustainable buildings. And then one of the things that RB+B did was go out and get their people some more training related to that, so it expanded their skills. Other companies that worked with the school district, like the Brendel Group, a sustainability consulting company, also pushed the vision and provided support and helped leadership think about how to talk about it. So this diagram just shows you how big their network is. I showed you that dense network that had about 25 nodes in it. The whole network has 102, and it includes people from government, private industry, and everybody in it talked about either how their organization was pushed by their partnership with others or how they were able to push others. And in most cases, it was mutual, that companies are pushing each other in multiple ways. Okay, so the question, how can we be more innovative? So here's our typical hierarchy, people at the top. Sometimes we think, oh, we can be more innovative if we just create a sustainability director. And so now we've added this person 17, a sustainability person to kind of layer on top of and just throw into the hierarchy. But this actually doesn't increase innovation. It keeps those same silos in our organizations. So if instead of adding person 17, a sustainability director, we make better connections between the people who are already heads of departments, and those are the green lines here, this actually increases innovation. And if we lay it out, instead of like a hierarchy, and we lay it out like a social network, we see this. We see this core in the middle that is densely connected, which is what you saw in that first slide, where information travels quickly and easily, and then people on the outside act as resources. So that previous screen of the interagency network had this same structure. It's called a core-periphery, where there's a dense core of people talking to each other, and then people outside who are resources. And this is the core-periphery network for the school district. For learning, again, it kind of shows those people in the middle that are super densely connected. The important thing that a core-periphery network does is by having that dense core, it speeds up the flow of information. And by having a diverse network on the outside, on the fringe, these are people from all kinds of places, it brings more information and new ideas into the system. So having dense connection increases communication and this spreads innovation, and diversity on the outside brings in new stuff. So these are my two recommendations to you. One is to have diverse intra-organizational teams. Your green teams should cross hierarchical levels, and they need to cross over divisions. The bigger your company and the more subunits and divisions you have, the more important it is for your green team to cross those divisions. And then really thinking about how to keep your company being the most innovative, building relationships with other organizations, whether those are your industry partners or people who are your vendors, building relationships with them and thinking about building networks that have some close relationships, and then also drawing information from a wide variety of other organizations. Okay, I'm done. I think now we're both open for questions.
How do we make the shift to sharing power as we create this dense network?
Two things, especially related to sustainability. One thing is that informal leaders already have some power to make change by their natural ability and capacity to inspire other people. So in some of my previous talks, we've talked about transformational leaders, and you don't have to be in a position of organizational power to influence people's behavior in organizations. So the perfect example of that is Dave Swartz at Rocky Mountain High School, a science teacher, was constantly sending information out to teachers and students and staff at that school, reminding them what their energy conservation goals were. And people said, Dave inspired me and inspired me to take action. So that's one place, is to know that informal leaders already have power in your network, and it's not about their organizational position. That's why it's important to figure out, when you're doing strategic change initiatives, who those people are so that you can get them on the team. The change initiatives that fail are ones that don't have informal leaders in formal positions that have some capacity to make change. So that's one thing. The other thing is, well, how do we just give people power? And that really is about giving, I would say, the whole green team some power to make change. And it doesn't mean rearranging your organizational hierarchy. It just means that if the green team says, hey, we think that we should start using these green entry mats, then you've given the interior designer, someone who's knowledgeable about that field, permission to go look and bring a recommendation back. And then the green team and the organization are going to do something with that. So I hope that answers your question.
So are the changes more permanent and long-term, or are they project-oriented and temporary?
The stuff I was talking about today is really about making big kind of organizational systemic changes. One of the things that we know about sustainability initiatives is that the most effective sustainability initiatives are really long-term things and not just little short-term piecemeal efforts. But if you start changing your teams and get a green team going and a sustainability team, then they begin interacting with projects in a new way. And I'm going to hand it to Josie because I think she has something to say about this.
You're so intuitive. So I would say, we work on big building projects, and so each project is unique and is comprised of its own unique team of people, and we're often trying to help lead and drive that team towards greater sustainability. And so I would say that organizationally, it's really about a long-term effort and an ongoing commitment to sustainability and working to build that capacity within the organization. But when you're having an undertaking of a unique project of significant scale, a lot of similar work needs to be done within that team to build that capacity and the sharing of information and ideas and resources. So it's almost like you have to rebuild that network when you're talking about a significant undertaking that is unique from the organization. So I'm not sure exactly the context of your question, but I think it can play out differently at an organizational level versus a project level.
The one thing I would say about social network structures and teams is that we know that the most effective work teams, in order to accomplish a really complex task, and designing a big green building is a complex task, requires densely connected teams. So I don't know what kind of organization you have, but whatever that project is, all of the people on that team need to have regular communication with each other and be, sharing information. And I think that the complexity of green buildings is what produced that really big, dense team that the people I know who do organizational studies have never seen such big teams. And I think it's because of the complexity of building projects requires actually a very huge team, and it's quite impressive through the integrated design process, to create such a densely connected team for a project that takes years to design and conceptualize and build.
All right, I think we have come to the end of our time for this session, but I'd like to thank Josie and Jenny for giving us some great frameworks and some useful tools for engaging employees in sustainability.